So today we're going to finish up the notes on chapter 8, section 1, and we're going to see the two triangles, and we're also going to see the area formula when you're given side angle side. Now, if you are given only two angles in a side, you will have to use law of sines to complete the triangle. Then you can use the area formula that we're going to see at the end of the notes. So yesterday we saw the formula, and again, remember you're going to just take two of these ratios at a time to form a proportion. And this is for non-right triangles. When it's a right triangle, we could use the normal trig and Pythagorean theorem. So we did example 1, we did example 2, we saw the ambiguous case, the explanation here. And again, when you're given side-side angle, it's either going to produce one triangle, two triangles, or no triangle at all. Because maybe the sides are too short or angle's too big, but it will form no triangle and you would be getting an error on your calculator. Oops. Then we did example 3. We did 4. And this is where we skipped, so we're going to do example 5, and this one is the scenario that we're given here is the SSA, two sides and an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a picture of a triangle, just a rough sketch here. And again, it doesn't have to be drawn to scale, just enough to give yourself a visual of where everything's located. So they gave me angle A, it was 20.5 degrees, and then they gave me side length B, which is opposite angle B, 31 meters. They gave me side length A, which is 12 meters, and I don't know side length C. Now, anytime you're given the angle measure in degrees and minutes or degrees, minutes, seconds, you have to use your prior knowledge and convert those minutes into a decimal degree. So a lot of the questions yesterday, not a lot, but there was one yesterday where they gave you a degree and then they gave you 30 minutes. So remember, when we convert those minutes, there's 60 minutes in an hour, so you would have to divide those minutes by 60 to make it a decimal degree. So let's go ahead and, again, what I like to do is write out what I'm looking for. So I'm A, B, C, all three angles, all three sides, and I'm going to fill in my given. So angle A was the 20.5. Angle B I don't know, or C. They gave me side length C, 12 meters, A, and then B was 31 meters, and I'm looking for side C. So those are the three pieces I'm looking for. So again, by my writing it down like this is sort of a clue for me that I can already see what's going to go in my first proportion. So I'm going to be using the side and the angle that I have, which is A's, and then I'm looking for angle B first. So I'm going to go ahead and do A over the sine of A is equal to B over the sine of B. So let me go ahead and fill it in. 12 over the sine of 20.5 is equal to 31 over the sine of B. Again, I'm trying to find angle B first. So I'm going to go ahead and do the cross products, multiply diagonally. So I'm going to multiply the 12 times the sine of B, and then the sine of 20.5 times the 31. So this gives me 12 times the sine of B is equal to 31 times the sine of 20.5. My goal is to get sine of B by itself, so I need to divide both sides of my equation by 12. The 12s cancel on the left side, and now I'm left with the sine of B is equal to, and I can go ahead and do this on my calculator now, 31 times the sine of 20.5 divided by 12, and you should be getting 0.904702416. I'm looking for an angle measure. So when I do this in my calculator, I'm doing the inverse. So sine -1 with this decimal. And then hit enter. And that will give me angle B rounded to the hundredths place, 64.78 degrees. So this is my angle B. So that's my first angle. I need to find the third angle, and I can just use my triangle sum. So 64.78 is angle B. So I'm going to add 20.5 plus the 64.78, and then I'm going to subtract that from 180. So this gives me 85.28. Subtract that from 180, because that's the total of the three angles of the triangle. And I get 94.72 for my last angle of the triangle. So 94.72 degrees. Now I'm going to take this newly found angle C and do the lost signs, do another proportion. So I'm going to be using the original given, the A stuff. So I'm going to do A over sine A. Now I'm looking for side C, so C over sine C. So 12 over the sine of 20.5 is equal to C over this newly found angle C, the 94.72. And I'm going to cross multiply. So I get the sine of 20.5 times C is equal to the other diagonal, 12 times the sine, 94.72. So divide by sine 20.5, so that cancels on the left side. And then now I'm not looking for an angle, so I'm just going to do 12 times the sine of 94.72 divided by the sine of 20.5. This will give me 34.149, so rounded to the tenths place, 34.15, and these are meters. So that's my last missing piece, and this is all triangle number 1. Now what I need to do is go back and check to see, can I make a second triangle? So I have to go back to my very first thing I calculated, which is this angle B. So I'm going to take that very first angle I found, and I need to subtract that from 180. So 64.78, and I'm subtracting it from 180, and that gives me 115.22. Now, if when I add this number to the original given, if that number stays under 180, this is going to be the angle B of my second triangle. So I got to check it. So I take the 115.22 and I add it to the 20.5 given to me at the beginning. Once I add this, I get 135.72. Since this is under 180 degrees, there's room to make a third angle. So there is a second triangle. So this is my angle B of triangle number 2. I'll put a little 2 there so I know the difference. This was my original angle A from the beginning, and that stays the same. And now to find angle C, I'm going to take this sum, this under number, I'm going to subtract it from 180, and then that'll give me my new angle C, which is going to be 44.28. So now I have the three angles of the second triangle. So let me do the same thing I did with the first triangle. Let me write down angle A, and I'll put a little 2 here so I can distinguish between the two triangles. So A was the same, 20.5 degrees. Angle B was the answer I got when I subtracted my first angle from 180. And then C was adding the original plus the new one and subtracting from 180, and that was 44.28. Now, I also need to find new sides. Now, the original given sides are still the same. So A was given, B was given, but I need to find the new C that goes with this angle. So I'm going to do a proportion. So I'm going to do A over the sine of A, because this was given to me from the beginning, and then C over the sine of the new C angle. So this will be 12 over sine of 20.5 is equal to C over the sine of 44.28. And now I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply this and this. So the sine of 20.5 times C is equal to 12 times the sine of 44.28. My goal is to get C by itself, so I got to divide both sides of my equation by the sine of 20.5, so that cancels it. So then now this side as well. So straight on your calculator, no inverse here, because it's a side length. 12 times the sine of 44.28 divided by the sine of 20.5 gives me 23.922, so 0.92 meters. And now this is the second side C of the second triangle. So these are all the new numbers. So 23.92. Too fast. So we did example 6 yesterday. Let's go to example 7. So again, I'm going to give myself a little visual. And again, you don't have to draw the triangle, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. So C is 31. The side opposite angle C is little c, and it's 29 meters. Little b is over here, 46 meters. And I don't know side length A. So again, this is going to be for triangle number 1. So I have angle A, angle B, angle C, and then we have little a, little b, little c. So let's fill it in. So C was 31, little b was 46, and little c is 29. So now let's go ahead and, again, I like to look at this and say, okay, this is what's going in my first proportion. So I'm going to set it up as b over the sine of b. You could put the c information first. It doesn't matter. And then c over the sine of c. So we'll fill it in. We're looking for angle b first. So sine of b, and then 29 over the sine of 31. So I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this and this. So 29 times the sine of b is equal to 46 times the sine of 31. I'm going to divide both sides by 29 so I can isolate sine b. So sine b is equal to 0. After I do 46 times the sine of 31 divided by 29, 0.8169569,464. Now again, I'm looking for an angle. So I'm doing inverse, sine -1 with this decimal. You know, if you wanted to right away up here, do sine -1 and then put the decimal, you can. This sign that's here doesn't have the inverse. It's after you get this answer that you're doing the inverse. And then once I put this in my calculator, I'm finding out that angle B is equal to 54.9 54.78. And this is the first angle B, but this is what I'm going to use for my check after I finish completing triangle number 1. Okay, so let me go ahead and put that up here. So 54.78. Now to find angle A, I've got 2 angles of my triangle, so I'm going to add them and subtract from 180. So 54.78 plus 31. Now technically what you could do since you're using your calculator, you could also just do 180 minus 54.78 minus 31. And then you can get your answer right away without having to add these and then subtract. So this gives me, once I do all this math, 94.22. So you can either do it this way or get that answer and then subtract. So this is add, this is subtract, but it still gives you this one and this one, give you the last angle, which is going to be angle A. So angle A, 94.22. So now I need to find side length A, and I'm going to use that newly found angle A. So I'm doing A over sine A, and I'm going to go back to what was given to me, C over sine C. Always try to go back to your given. So A, I don't know. I know angle A. I just calculated it, 94.22. And then side C was 29, and angle C was 31. So we cross multiply. And divide. So once I multiply diagonally, I get the sine of 31 times A is equal to 29 times the sine of 94.22. And again, my goal is to get A by itself. So I need to divide by the sine of 31, which cancels that. And then no inverse here because A is not an angle. So 29 times 94.22 divided by the sine of 31, 56.15 meters. Go ahead and write it up here. Now, once you have these 6 numbers, make sure it makes sense. So remember, back to your geometry days, the biggest angle is going to have the biggest side across from it. So angle A is the biggest angle. It's 94. It needs the biggest side next to it. So 94 and 56 are the 2 biggest numbers. And then the smallest angle, 31, is across from the smallest side. So my answers make sense. So this is a way that maybe you could do a quick visual and say, are my answers making sense? Is the biggest side across from the biggest angle, or the smallest side across from the smallest angle? Okay, so now that I've completed triangle number 1, now I got to go back to this very first calculation, and I need to see, can I make a second triangle? And the way that you'll do that is you're going to take 180 and you're going to subtract that very first angle that you found. So 180 minus 54.78 is going to give me 125.22. Now, this potentially is going to be the new angle B of the second triangle. But what I have to do is make sure that when I take that angle and add it to the very first one they gave me, which was C, if this sum stays under 180, then there's room to make a triangle. So when I add this, I get 156.22. This is under 180. So because it's under 180, this is a good angle B for the second triangle. Now to find angle C, I take this sum and I subtract it from 180. So the 156 minus 22. And once I subtract that, my new angle A, it's actually angle A, is going to be 23.78. So let me go ahead and do like I did before. So I have angle A of the second triangle, angle B of the second triangle, angle C. So I just found A to be 23.78. I found angle B to be 125.22. And angle C was given to me, it was 31. Now, all of the original given stuff is still the same. So they had given me B, it was 46, and they had given me C, 29. I have to find the new A using this new A angle. So again, I'm doing A over sine A, and I'm going to use the original C stuff, C over sine C, because that was the one that gave me the angle and the side from the beginning. So I'm looking for A. So sine 23.78 is equal to 29 over the sine of 31. This right here was the given stuff from the beginning. So now I'm going to cross multiply. So do the cross products. And I get sine of 31 times A is equal to 29 times the sine of 23.78. I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 31. So then that cancels. And then once I divide that, I get A is equal to 22.70 meters. And this is the A of the second triangle. So now I have information for two triangles. Okay. Oh, now it's kicking me off. Okay. All right, there you go. Good? You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on the last question in the homework, when you get to the next slide where it has the area formulas, these area formulas are for side, angle, side. The last question gives you angle, angle, and then a side. So you have to use law signs and complete the triangle, and then you can do the formula. When you do it, don't use the rounded number. You have to use the whole number. Okay? So if you use the rounded number on the last question, you'll get it wrong. You got to keep the same long answer in your calculator. Good? Still need? Okay. Everybody good? All right, let's go on. Okay. So these are the area formulas for an oblique triangle when you're given side, angle, side. Now, if you get a question where you're not given side, angle, side, you'll have enough information where you can complete the triangle using law signs, and then you can plug it into the formula. Now, these capital A's that are right here, this is just an abbreviation for the word area. However, these letters right here, these are for the angle measure. So let's go ahead and take a look. So depending on your given, you're going to use one of these, not all of them. So let's take a look at an example. So here it says to find the area and round to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to be using area equals 1/2 A, B, and then the sign of C. It's easy enough. If you're given two sides and an angle, this is going to be what goes in front, and then you just do the sign of that angle. So let's go ahead and fill it in. You can do this continuous in your calculator. If you don't want to do 1/2, if you want to do 0.5 times 90 times 52 times the sign of 102, and then just round it to 2 decimal places. And this will give you 2,288.87 meters squared. Remember, area is always the unit squared. The next one, same exact thing. We're just going to do 1/2 or 0.5, however you want to do it, times A, which is 24, times B, which is 18, times the sign of the angle that's given. Just straight multiply all this, and the area of this triangle is 212.72 yards squared, because it's 718, so it'll round to a 2.